The Boston Bruins have a golden opportunity, as multiple reports have suggested the Boston Bruins try something very different in free agency this year when it comes down to the offer sheets, including multiple names that would certainly propel the Boston Bruins in the right direction. We're going to be breaking down these interesting reports, going deeper from yesterday's ideas, and breaking down why the Bruins should at least attempt some of this here in this year's free agency. We're going to jump into all of this here in this video very quickly. Before we do, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We notice that just over 75% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. If you're looking for a spot for all of your Boston Bruins news, you're in the right spot. Hit the sub button, join us here on the channel. We're covering everything Boston Bruins. We have so much to cover as we head towards free agency, as we head towards the draft, as the Bruins attempt to get a head coach. And recent reports from Don Sweeney, from the Boston Herald, from many other Bruins reporters have indicated that the Bruins are looking to try something different in this year's free agency. And that different thing is going to the offer sheets. We've seen the past few seasons really work out well for quite a few teams. Namely, or mainly, I guess we could say, the Blues last year, really poaching two young, talented players from the Edmonton Oilers. And this really sparks a lot of conversation throughout the NHL of who is going to be doing this year and why not try it? And the Boston Bruins are one of these teams which are in the great position and have a golden opportunity to at least attempt something like this. Now, when we look at the Bruins cap and when we look at the free agents available, there are quite a few that are very, very talented players and quite a few that the Bruins are going to want to at least conversate with, have some looks at. But when it comes down to it, realistically, there's nobody here that is super young. And that's what the Bruins are trying to do. Get younger, get better, and be able to have a team that they could lock down for a few years. And usually when that comes to it, those guys are RFAs that are going to be able to do that. And the Bruins, not really known to be trading for RFAs and signing them. But when it comes down to the offer sheet, it is getting more popular, and it's a great opportunity for the Bruins to try something. So when we go and take a look at it, I wanted to pull this up here. The St. Louis moves what they made last year. The Blues signed Broberg for a total of $9.16 million for 2 years, which is 4.5 AAV, and Holloway for 4.5 for 2 years, which is 2.29 AAV with the Blues, and then giving up a second and third round pick as compensation to the Oilers. And we saw how good both of those players were last year. Now, it's not every day you're going to get a Philip Broberg. It's not every day you're going to get a Dylan Holloway type of guy in one of these deals. But when it comes down to it, some interesting names have been thrown out there that may or may not already be excelled past the Broberg, past the Holloway level that they are at right now. So when it comes down to it, I want to pull up, firstly, the cap, because this is the big thing. The Bruins need to have the cap, they need to have the picks, and they need to be willing to make these moves. And when it comes down to it, $28.8 million to go sign your guys that you want in Morgan Geekie, maybe Henry Jokiharju, maybe Margot Kuznetsov. There's a few names out there that the Bruins are going to want to get back from their own. And there's also some teams that may try to offer sheet Morgan Geekie. We've been seeing that, and Don Sweeney said he's not afraid to go out here, make this last. We want to have him before, of course, but if they were to go out and someone offer sheet him, I think the Bruins will be willing to match that, unless it's, in excess of 4 first-round picks, which is an option. We will jump into those classifications here now in a little bit, but when it does come down to it, the Bruins do have enough cap to make this happen, and it will be interesting to see what players will be making what in this period of time. And when we go and look at the list of the offer sheet players, when you go and see, let's just call it a 4.6 to 7 million is an average player. And one player that we're going to be talking about here later in Will Cuylle may fit in this range or even the one below. And when it comes to that, 2.3 to 4.6 is a second round pick. 4.6 to 7 is a first and a third, which may be a bit too much for a guy like Will Cuylle. But when it comes down to another name, Matthew Knies, things are going to get very interesting at that point. Now, when it comes down to it as well, the Bruins have the picks to make this happen. And of course, a first, a second, a third, those are pretty common picks to be thrown in there. 4 first is usually quite a lot, but the Bruins do have all of their first. But once again, that only comes down to it if it is over 11 million, which nobody in this market right now, in the RFA market, will be making over that. And I highly doubt anybody in this RFA market right now will be making over 9.3. So I think we can take the 2 first or more than 2 first out of the equation here. But when it comes down to a 7 million to 9.3, a guy like Matthew Knies really could fit into that category. And we know that he's been saying that he wants to stay with the Maple Leafs. He don't want to go, but when you're getting to a price range of around, let's just call it 9 million. Now, it's a bit excessive, but I don't think the Bruins would be willing to give him 9 million. That is hard to pass up when it comes down to it. And of course, he would have to sign it. The Leafs would have the chance to match it. And if it's over the Leafs' comfortable level of signing Matthew Knies, he could be an option for the Bruins. Now, is it a long shot? Is it close? I think it's more of a long shot, of course. The Bruins are going to try to do what they can, and that's still going to come down to it of what happens. And when it does come down to it, of course, Matthew Knies would be the most appealing target of the two. He's an RFA, Toronto Maple Leafs forward, 22 years old, seemingly cut from a different cloth as his Toronto teammates, showcasing a nose for the net, playing physical, power forward, the game that translates well to the postseason. We saw that this year. Now, as much as the Leafs, we hated to see him in the playoffs when we weren't there, Matthew Knies was a great player. And seeing him throughout his college career at Minnesota as well, he is an absolute dog. A guy that plays just like the Bruins would want to. And we've already poached some young players from the Maple Leafs and Fraser Minton. Why not try it again with a guy like Matthew Knies? So, of course, Matthew Knies would be kind of in this range of probably a first-round pick, a second, a third, maybe even more. But he is a player that, at 22 years old, really would fit the Bruins' scheme of what they're trying to do. And as I mentioned in the last video, a guy like Misha Donskov, who apparently is no longer in consideration for the Bruins' head coaching candidacy because he is still in the playoffs. Don Sweeney don't want to interview anybody in the playoffs. It gives the Bruins that opportunity to be able to go get these younger guys and develop them, as we saw that Misha Donskov did with not just the Dallas Stars as an assistant coach, not just with Vegas as an assistant coach, but as a director of player operations with the Vegas Golden Knights during the opening draft, the expansion draft. So when it comes down to the Bruins coaching candidates, there's a lot of guys here that are willing and able to make a guy like Matthew Knies turn into more of a superstar quicker than he already would be naturally. And I think that, of course, Misha Donskov would be one of those guys, but Marco Sturm, let's just say, for example, he's been a coach for a lot of younger players in the AHL, with the Ontario Reign. Guys like Brant Clark, guys like, many of those younger LA players that have made their way into this system and are now considered superstars. Quentin Byfield, we saw the boost that he took. A guy like Marco Sturm certainly would be able to fit that bill for someone on the younger side of things here. But when it comes down to him, when it comes down to a guy like Will Cuylle, they've shown that they're able to do that. When we go and look at Matthew Knies this year, in his first real season, I guess we could say, with the Toronto Maple Leafs, 58 points, 78 games, 29 goals, 29 assists, 22 years old. And he's already putting these numbers up, playing some great players, but put him on the line with just a Pastrnak. He's going to excel regardless of what happens, but there are more options, of course. The likelier of the options would be Will Cuylle. A team with far less cap space to work with, like the Rangers, who have 8.4, might be more of an appealing club target, and especially when it comes to a forward like Will Cuylle. Cuylle won't require the same payout as Matthew Knies, but the Bruins could set down an offer sheet around 4.6 annually, costing a second-round pick to get the Blue Shirts to blink. And exactly, when it comes down to this, a 4.6, much cheaper than Matthew Knies, but all you would need is a second-round pick. To get a guy like Will Cuylle, who has shown that he's still developing, he's a great player, 82 games, 45 points, 23 years old, just a little bit older than Matthew Knies, but still on a team like the Rangers, who this year were really, really bad, nearly on our level last year. I think that these options are very, very good ideas for the Bruins. Of course, we never may see a Matthew Knies in a Bruins jersey, but a Will Cuylle, someone like that, an RFA that just piques the interest of the Bruins, is someone a lot more likely. So I want to know what you guys think right now of the possibility of an offer sheet. We've explored it a little bit in the last video, kind of touched on that with Matthew Knies and Will Cuylle, but a full dive on here now when we're looking at this, when we're talking about it. Let me know what you think, because I something about this whole idea, the way that Don Sweeney's been talking about it, the way that he's been talking about the contracts and how he mentioned that they're not afraid if they see an offer sheet towards Morgan Geekie, something really just sparks the idea in my mind that this would work very, very well for the Bruins if given the opportunity. So let me know what you think in the comments below about all of this here. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.